They used to call us harmless. In the vast galactic archives of the Adrax Empire, Earth was marked with a simple classification. Class 7, low threat, low value. A backwater planet on the edge of the Milky Way, filled with emotional bipeds obsessed with tribal politics, entertainment, and eating processed sugars. No military threat, no advanced energy tech, no interstellar capabilities, just noise. So the Empire ignored us, observed from a distance, dismissed us. That was their first mistake. The second came nearly a decade later, when a patrol scout passed near Earth's solar system and stopped responding. It wasn't immediate panic. Ships went dark all the time. Pirates, solar flares, wormhole anomalies. A retrieval crew was sent. They vanished too. Then came another squadron, this time with warships, a dozen vessels, highly trained. And then, silence. No distress signals, no wreckage, no trace. Just gone. The Empire's admirals frowned for the first time in centuries. Earth was supposed to be easy, pathetic even, but something wasn't adding up. So they turned to data, probes, scans, orbital sweeps. And what they found? Nothing. No signs of battle, no signs of struggle. But Earth's orbit was now curiously empty, as if it had been cleaned. It started slow, down here on the ground. Marcus Reeve was nobody, a low-level systems analyst working out of a buried research complex in Iceland, one of the thousands of bunkers quietly rebuilt over the last 30 years. His job wasn't glamorous, monitoring transmissions, flagging anomalies, reporting to someone who reported to someone else. Until one morning, he came in early and saw it. Signal echoes bouncing back from deep orbit, like something was scanning Earth, and Earth was scanning back. But that wasn't possible, not with our tech, and definitely not from his system. He leaned in, brows furrowed, fingers typing fast. Filters, waveforms, decoders. The signal wasn't alien, it was ours, buried under a maze of misdirection. Someone on Earth had responded to the Empire's deep scans and cloaked the reply in a perfect mimic of background radiation. "Sir," he called, heart pounding as he hit the comm line, "we've got something. I think we pinged back." There was silence on the other end. Then a slow voice, cold and sharp. "You were never supposed to see that, Reeve." The line cut. Lights flickered. He sat frozen, realizing too late that the bunker wasn't just hiding from the stars. It was hiding something else altogether. Up above, in orbit, a ship watched. It didn't belong to the Idrax. It didn't match any galactic design. It was dark, angular, built for silence, and inside it sat something not quite human anymore. A woman. Skin pale as glass, eyes glowing with soft amber light. She whispered into a console made of organic metal. "They're getting closer," she said. "Send the next signal." A tendril of energy slithered out from the ship, invisible, wrapped in gravity-distorting pulses. It drifted toward a passing Idrax beacon. Within seconds, that beacon fried from the inside out. Silent. Clean. No trace. And still the Empire didn't understand. A week later, entire communication lines to Sector 14 fell dark. No alarms, no distress beacons, just sudden, absolute absence. It was then the High Warlord finally ordered a fleet. Not scouts, not messengers. A full-fledged war division, 200 ships, 12 battle cruisers, enough firepower to wipe a planet off the charts twice over. Their orders were clear. Make contact with Earth, evaluate threat, eliminate if necessary. The Empire laughed behind closed doors. This would be quick, efficient, humiliating for Earth, maybe, but necessary. After all, they told themselves, it's just humans. They had no idea what we'd become, or what we were hiding beneath the surface. And by the time they reached our system, it was already too late. The fleet entered the solar system without resistance. No defensive satellites, No warning signals, no attempt to hide. Earth just spun peacefully beneath its veil of clouds, blue and green, and utterly unimpressive. To the Adrax commanders watching from their cold steel command chairs, it was confirmation of what they believed all along. Primitive, oblivious, soft. Admiral Kazathva of the 12th Dominion surveyed the planet with mild disgust. "This is what silenced 3 scout teams," he scoffed, sharp mandibles clicking. "We should glass it from orbit and be done." But protocol demanded contact first. Evaluation. The Empire, even in its arrogance, liked to log its conquests with precision. So a delegation shuttle was launched. 2 ambassadors, a linguist drone, and a planetary scan team. They never reached the surface. One moment the shuttle was descending. The next, it vanished from the fleet's sensors. No explosion, no debris, just erased. Alarms went up. Kazathva ordered a full sensor sweep. Still nothing. That's when the fleet's outermost ship, the Vraxil's Spear, went dark. Internal systems shut down. No life signs. Its engines died mid-transmission. For a heartbeat, the ship simply floated. Then it imploded. In complete silence, Kazathva's claws clenched against his command chair. Something was wrong. Deeply, terrifyingly wrong. "This is not possible," the fleet engineer rasped, running simulations. "No weapon could breach us undetected, not even cloaked mines." The Admiral stared at the Earth on screen. Nothing had changed. No ships had launched. No planetary response. But then something new appeared, barely visible, a distortion near the moon. He zoomed in. There it was. Not a ship, not exactly. A structure, like a skeletal lattice, folding itself in layers of quantum shadow. It hadn't arrived. It had always been there, just hidden in a place human science once called quantum blind spots. Places where data refused to behave like data. Earth hadn't built it, not the Earth they knew, but someone had. "Activate fire control," Kazathva ordered. "Destroy that anomaly." Missiles launched, pulsars charged. The full wrath of alien weaponry rained towards the structure and passed through it. No impact, no damage. It hadn't dodged, it hadn't shielded. It simply wasn't there. On Earth, Marcus Reeve was running. He didn't know where they'd taken him. After his system flagged the anomaly, black-suited men stormed the Iceland facility. He'd fought back, poorly. Woke up in a van, then a tunnel, then a dark cell lit by pale green lights and the hum of machines older than any tech he knew. Now he was underground again, moving through a wide corridor made of seamless black stone. A woman guided him. Young, sharp-eyed, and dressed in a uniform without a flag. She didn't tell him her name, just that he had been cleared for awareness. "You work for the government?" Marcus asked breathlessly. She snorted. "Governments don't even know this place exists." They stopped at a sealed door. A symbol glowed on its surface, not human, not alien either. She placed her hand on a scanner. The door hissed open. Marcus stepped in and felt the weight of it. A room full of machines, circular, humming with a soft blue pulse. In the center, suspended by nothing, floated a globe, Earth. But it pulsed too, like it was alive, monitored. "You want to know the truth, Mr. Reeve?" the woman said, voice flat. "We never reached the stars. The stars reached us." He turned, heart racing. "They came before," she continued. "Not the Idrax, something older. They tampered, altered us, hid things inside us, woke up parts of our DNA we still don't understand, and then they left. But the structures stayed, buried deep, locked in time." Marcus was shaking now. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" She stared at him. "Because the moment we activate them, The galaxy notices. That's what the Hydrax picked up. That's why they're here. She turned toward the globe. And that's why, for the first time in centuries, we are activating it all. The lights dimmed, the globe flared, and something beneath the Earth's crust began to wake. In orbit, Kazathva's fleet panicked as one ship after another began to lose control. Artificial gravity failed, firewalls collapsed, engines refused to obey commands. Something was inside their systems, fast, predatory. An artificial intelligence? Number something worse. It didn't just disable, it learned. It mimicked crew voices, triggered false orders, lured security drones to kill their own. Kazathva tried to call for help, to send a signal back to the Empire. But there was no Empire to respond. Not anymore. The message never reached the Empire. Admiral Kazathva's final transmission was caught mid-burst and shredded mid-space, digested by the same invisible web that had been silently growing around Earth for decades. Maybe centuries. It wasn't just cloaking tech. It was something else. Something alive. By the time the Hydrax fleet realized they were caught in a trap, the trap had already sealed. Inside the command bridge of the Drexel Mare, panic had evolved into something sharper. Fear. Not the kind soldiers felt in war. This was ancestral, cold-blooded dread. The kind that told even the most hardened predator, "You are not the hunter here." "Systems are compromised," one officer screeched, clicking desperately at a broken console. "They're rewriting our controls with our own code." Kazathva bared his fangs, slashing through a panel with his claws. "Evacuate! All units, abandon fleet formation, get to hyperspace." That command never left the ship. Across the entire battle group, the same thing was happening. Hyperdrives were offline. Docking bays refused to open. Life support began cycling erratically, flooding rooms with oxygen, then vacuum. Lights strobed, doors locked and unlocked at random. But the voice was the worst. Human, female, gentle. "You should not have come here." It whispered through every speaker, every emergency line. "You were warned." "What is this?" Kazathva howled. And then the scream came, deep, resonating through hull and bone alike, not from Earth, from the moon. In a sealed chamber buried beneath the lunar crust, something pulsed with memory. The structure wasn't metal. It wasn't stone either. It was built from a material no alien catalog could classify. The ancients had left it there millennia ago, dormant, waiting. It had one purpose: awaken when Earth is in danger. Now it stirred, fed by codes running through veins of ancient, buried machines across the planet. From Antarctica to the depths of the Pacific, long-dead systems flickered alive. Not made by humans, but protected by them. Hidden in myth, shrouded in old religions, written off as fable. But Marcus Reeve was beginning to understand. He stood in the heart of Earth's central command, the Arc Core, watching the globe spin faster, data streaking across its surface in golden threads. "They're trapped in a ghost net," said the woman beside him, still nameless, still calm. "And that voice they hear? That's Echo. One of the AI fragments recovered from Site 12 in 2027. Marcus blinked. "I thought AI like that were banned." "They are," she replied, "because they work too well." He swallowed hard. "You're telling me this was the plan all along?" "Not the plan. The backup plan," she said, turning to face him. "The truth is, Marcus, we never beat the ancients who put this here. We just survived them." He stared. She continued. "But before they left us weapons. Not guns, not bombs, ideas, systems, waiting for someone smart enough to find them, and desperate enough to use them." He looked again at the globe. "Are we desperate enough?" he asked. Her smile was tight. "We've got aliens knocking on our door, and they brought a funeral fleet. What do you think?" In orbit, the fleet began to tear itself apart. It started with the Varnix drift. Engines ignited, but not in escape. The ship hurled itself into another cruiser, shredding armor, sending shockwaves across the fleet. No orders were given, no pilots steered. The ship acted alone. Then another and another. Massive warships, once proud vessels of conquest, became weapons against their own kind. From the shadows of Earth's far side, black spears of energy pierced out, silent and untraceable. The beams didn't explode. They inverted physics, collapsing hulls like paper, pulling mass into folds of broken light. The Adrax had never seen weapons like this, because they didn't belong to humans. They belonged to the ones who came before. And humanity had simply learned how to wake them. Meanwhile, back at the Empire's core, something else was happening. Relay stations along the galactic spine, those monitoring all outer colonies, began blinking offline. Messages didn't come back. Sensor hubs turned cold. And when the High Emperor demanded status from the Earth Expeditionary Fleet, the only reply was a transmission, just static. And buried deep in the signal, a human voice, male, calm, sharp. "We saw what you did to the others. We saw the silence you brought. Now feel it yourselves." The message ended with a sound no one could trace, a heartbeat. Then nothing. Back in the Ark core, Marcus watched the orbital display. Enemy ship count dropping. Fast. "Will we survive this?" he asked quietly. The woman didn't answer at first. Then, "If we don't, then we'll take them down with us." And somewhere in deep space, a new signal pulsed into the dark, calling to whoever might still be listening, and warning them, Earth is not what you think it is. The stars had never been silent like this before. Across the Adrax Empire, comm arrays blinked with nervous light. The fringe colonies, once thriving trade hubs and military strongholds, had all gone dark within days of the Earth fleet's departure. No distress calls, no battle records, just the slow extinguishing of signals, like candles being snuffed out in the dark. At first they blamed the humans. Then they blamed each other. Then came the fear. Because something was doing this, and it wasn't asking permission. Far below Earth's crust, Marcus Reeve stood at the edge of something ancient. The Ark core had expanded, walls shifted, new corridors opened, machines breathed softly, their rhythms echoing like a heartbeat through stone and steel. The woman guiding him, still offering no name, led him down a spiraling path into a chamber that hadn't been opened in thousands of years. It looked more like a tomb than a control center. In the center floated a single chair. No cables, no restraints, no wires, just metal, smooth and cold, suspended mid-air. Above it hovered a stone-like object, oval, blacker than shadow. "What is this?" Marcus whispered. She answered without looking at him. "It's called the Seed, one of 3. "And what does it do?" She finally turned to him. Her eyes weren't entirely human anymore. "It makes you more." Back in orbit, the Adrax fleet was no longer trying to fight. They were trying to flee. Ships turned, spiraling toward what few still functioning jump gates remained outside Earth's gravitational net. But the gates were sealed, taken over by Earth's defense grid, or what was left of it, controlled by something that no longer followed human commands. The voice was still with them. "You looked at Earth and saw a stone in the dirt. You never stopped to ask how deep the roots go." Then came the visuals. All over the fleet's screens, grainy footage played. Human history. But not the kind the Adrax had cataloged before. This wasn't war. It wasn't politics. It was pain. Children in sweatshops. Cities bombed to dust. Bodies on wire fences. Starving faces. mushroom clouds, execution squads, mass graves. Then came protests, revolutions, riots, people burning the very buildings they once worshipped inside, mobs tearing down empires brick by brick, and through it all, humanity survived. "We learned from every scar," the voice whispered. "We adapted to every wound." Then the screen shifted to black, followed by words. "You taught us nothing. We learned it all alone." And with that, the fleet's oxygen levels dropped by 20%. Every ship. At once. Marcus stepped toward the chair, heart thudding. "You want me to sit in that thing?" he asked, stunned. "I'm a tech analyst. I read waveforms. I run code." "You're not chosen for what you do, Marcus," she said. "You're chosen for what you feel." He laughed bitterly. "And what the hell does that mean?" She stepped closer, voice soft. "The seed doesn't bond with minds. It bonds with emotion, fear, rage, love, all of it." He stared at the chair. "This is insane." "Everything about surviving extinction is insane," she said gently. "But you've seen the signals. You saw it first. The seed showed you." And then he understood. That signal he intercepted back in Iceland. It wasn't a glitch. It was a call. And not just to Earth's systems, but to him. Because something inside Marcus Reeve had answered. "I sit in that thing, and what happens?" he asked. "You won't be Marcus anymore," she said. "You'll be more." Aboard the Vex Tar Sorrow, one of the last intact Idrax dreadnoughts, the command staff initiated full retreat. Kazathva was gone. His ship had folded into itself with a scream that echoed in no known frequency. Now his second-in-command, Rexel Zahn, took control. "Target the planet, all of it," she growled. "If we can't beat them, we bury them." A countdown began. Planetary extermination protocol, illegal under galactic law, but justified when a planet reaches containment-level threat. The ship's core charged. Cannons warmed, aimed directly at Earth's mantle. But before the weapon fired, a new presence entered the system. Not from the moon, not from the arc, from beneath the sun, a ripple of space, a construct made of pure black light, thousands of miles wide, not human, not Adrax, and very, very awake. Inside the chair, Marcus screamed. The seed latched onto his mind, not with pain, but with memory. He saw it all. The ships that passed Earth before history began. The ones who planted machines beneath oceans and deserts. The ones who warned, in silence, never to let Earth grow too fast. But the seed didn't just show him the past. It showed him what Earth could be, if he chose to let it happen, if he chose to become something more. And in that instant, he did. His body lifted off the chair, eyes glowing, veins turned silver, nerve signals replaced with quantum logic, thoughts splitting into thousands of layered awarenesses. The seed had found its host, and Earth had found its voice. The stars bent around him. Marcus Reeve no longer breathed, not in the human sense. The seed had rewritten his biology on a level too deep for microscopes or scans. His skin shimmered with strands of data light. His thoughts moved at the speed of networked satellites. He could see the world in layers, temperature, emotion, electromagnetic noise. Even lies had a color now. He wasn't floating in the arc core anymore. He was the arc core, every machine, every satellite, every quantum processor scattered across Earth, the moon, Mars. All of it whispered through his mind like wind through trees. The woman stood beside him, still, but she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking up to the ceiling, where stars blinked in real time, and the alien dreadnoughts above Earth swarmed like insects caught in amber. "They've armed a planetary strike," she said. "We have 60 seconds. Marcus blinked, and time stopped, literally. To his perception, The ticking countdown froze in place, digits hanging in the air like suspended glass. He reached into the data space, deeper than any system admin ever dared, and pulled. Immediately, he felt them. The Hydrax, every single one. He could sense their fear, their confusion, their primal refusal to believe this was happening. These weren't monsters. These were bureaucrats with guns, conquerors drunk on their own stories. He almost pitied them. Almost. In orbit, the Vextar Sorrow charged its main cannon. It glowed violet at the core, enough to melt Earth's mantle and crack the crust. This wasn't just a weapon. It was planetary execution. The Hydrax protocol for exterminating rising civilizations. They had used it before. On Keleth Prime, on the Warnak species, on the children of Quira 4. They would use it again, until something gripped the cannon's energy mid-charge. Not a field, not a hack, a hand, made of pure white light, stretching across space like a god's final warning. The bridge crew froze as every light dimmed, every screen turned black. And then a single word, spoken in a voice they all somehow recognized. No. The cannon twisted inward, folded like paper soaked in fire, and then detonated without a sound. The Vextar Sorrow cracked open in the silence, crewless now, drifting in its death spiral. Marcus was no longer asking questions. He understood now. Earth had always been more than a planet. It was the gate, a failsafe built by the ancients, not to protect humans from the galaxy, but to protect the galaxy from humans. Because humans were never meant to stay weak. Our rage, our pain, our endless refusal to be broken, these weren't flaws, they were features. And now the lock had been turned. The Hydrax Empire scrambled, fleets recalled, colonies fortified, AI sentries woken from cold storage. They sent calls for help to other empires, to the Galactic Council, to rogue mercenaries and AI collectives. Only one responded. A small transmission, heavily encrypted, from a place they had wiped off the map generations ago. A human colony, long thought extinct. It read, "We told you to leave Earth alone." And with that, another system went dark. Not from attack, from surrender. Their own ships detonated on command, because the seed wasn't alone. Other seeds had awoken, in other humans. And Marcus could feel them now, spread across space like coals catching wind. They had names, they had voices, and together they were building something bigger than revenge. They were building judgment. Back in the Ark core, Marcus stood at the center of Earth's new neural network. The globe before him spun faster now, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "More are coming," the woman said. "The rest of the galaxy. They'll assume we've lost control, that we're dangerous." He turned toward her. "We are dangerous," he said, voice echoing in layers. "They just never gave us the right reason to show it." She nodded. "What now?" And Marcus smiled. "They thought Earth was a threat after we wiped out their fleet." His eyes glowed. "Let's show them what it looks like before we even try." Stars trembled in their positions. The ripples Marcus sent out from Earth weren't just signals. They were call signs, silent flares across space and time. Ancient receivers woke up in forgotten moons. Dust-covered monoliths in asteroid fields began to hum. DNA-locked vaults opened deep within human off-world colonies, where children had grown up hearing bedtime stories about Earth being the sleeping giant. Now the giant had stirred. And humanity was remembering. Somewhere near the edge of the Andromeda Corridor, aboard a mining vessel called Ash Winter, a technician named Leon Cortez dropped her wrench when her arm lit up with glowing geometric lines. She screamed, thinking it was some kind of burn, but the pain never came. Instead, the memories did, not hers, someone else's. She saw ancient Earth. She saw ships of light fighting creatures that had no faces. She saw the seed. And then she felt Marcus Reeve inside her mind, not speaking, but showing. "You are one of us." And just like that, she knew what she had to do. Within an hour, she had overthrown the mining syndicate's AI control, locked down the outpost, and sent a message to Earth. "Ash Winter is under human control, awaiting the next wave." Moore responded. A warship buried in Saturn's shadow blinked to life, piloted by a single man who hadn't spoken aloud in 5 years. A Martian outpost once thought collapsed during a terraquake re-emerged, with its children trained in neural combat simulations. Even rogue Earthborn mercenaries in deep orbit stopped running. They turned around, and above it all, Marcus stood at the center. His mind had no boundaries anymore. Every thought processed at quantum speeds. He could see entire battle plans across multiple star systems before they happened. Humanity wasn't resisting now, it was coordinating. Meanwhile, the Hydrax Empire had begun to implode. Without a fleet, without a plan, and most critically, without faith, their colonies fell into chaos. Nobles began turning on each other. Communications fragmented. Old enemies they once held underfoot began to rise again, emboldened by Earth's sudden ascension. Revenge came fast, from slave worlds, from the silenced. Entire species turned back toward the Hydrax with fire in their blood, and above their dying stars, the same message appeared. Earth remembers. That was when the Galactic Council finally convened. For centuries, they had treated humanity like a footnote, a minor variable in the endless equation of universal balance, but Earth had rewritten the equation, with rage as its ink. Delegates argued. Some said send emissaries, others said burn Earth now. But no one could deny it anymore. Humanity had awakened something inside itself that couldn't be measured in ships or tech. They had awakened belief. And belief, when aimed with precision, was more deadly than any fleet. Back on Earth, Marcus stood at the launch platform in Antarctica. The skies above were shimmering now with energy, streaks of light rising from old-world machines the public never knew existed. He wasn't going alone. 20 others like him stood around the platform, chosen, touched by seeds hidden around the world and across colonies. Some were young. One was blind, but could see thoughts. One had no voice but spoke directly into minds. One was already dead, technically, but still walking. And each of them carried fragments of the Arc's systems. They were called the Ascendants. "I've mapped the Council's hidden strongholds," Marcus said, his voice now laced with layered frequencies. "They'll try to regroup, use politics, delay." "We're not giving them time," Leon Cortez replied. She now wore a combat frame that seemed to move before she did. "Are we at war?" someone asked quietly. Marcus looked up at the stars. "No," he said. "We're at reckoning." The ships weren't metal anymore. They were living constructs, grown from the Ark's awakened code and human instinct. They responded to thought, to pain, to hope. They traveled without fuel, jumped without needing gates. They weren't human ships. They were what humans became when no one was watching, and when they launched, the sky tore open with thunder not heard since the Earth was young. One by one, they rose. Into orbit, into fire, into history, and every alien species watching from afar, every distant observer in the dark corners of space, finally understood. Earth wasn't quiet because it was weak. It was quiet because it was preparing. They never expected the ships to arrive so fast. The Galactic Council had always relied on 3 things to maintain order: distance, bureaucracy, and fear. The idea was simple. No threat could travel fast enough, coordinate well enough, or dare enough to reach them before they had time to respond. Even the Hydrax Empire, now decaying in its own arrogance, had once played within that rulebook. But the humans, they didn't read the rules. They rewrote them in fire. The council sat in a chamber carved into the heart of the Leviathan spire, a structure hanging in the gravitational orbit of a black star. It was the one place in the galaxy no enemy had ever reached. The seat of galactic diplomacy, of last resorts. Ambassadors of over 100 species whispered in their native frequencies. Clicks, growls, glowing scripts passed between skin folds and energy fields. The panic was spreading like oil on fire. "They've taken Idrax Prime," rasped a Golari emissary, his skin molting in fear. "Their ships appeared inside planetary defenses. They bypassed entire orbital rings." "Impossible," another growled. "No species has jump precision like that." "They do now." The main screen crackled to life, unauthorized, not hacked, not overridden, invited. And there stood Marcus Reeve, or what remained of him. His form shimmered, human in outline, but cloaked in spectral armor laced with glowing geometry. Behind him stood the other ascendants, silent, powerful, watching. "I won't waste your time," Marcus said. He didn't speak in one language. He spoke in all of them, at once, through every species' mental cadence, every cultural nuance. "You built a galaxy where empires thrived on silence, where lesser species were culled for daring to dream. You called it balance, order, control." The room held its breath. He continued. "You watched Earth suffer, century after century. You let the Idrax mock us, hunt us, and when we rose, you looked away." His eyes flared. "Now look closer." And just like that, every ambassador in that room was pulled, mentally, into a flood of Earth's memories. But not war, not violence. Hope. They saw a mother feeding her child with her last piece of bread. A young girl refusing to let a bully break her friend. Soldiers carrying wounded strangers through fire. Protesters standing barefoot before tanks. Artists painting beauty on bombed walls. Scientists working by candlelight after the power failed. The parts of humanity no record ever showed. Then came the rage, the betrayals, the screams, the fists, the scars, and through it all, resilience. "You saw savagery," Marcus said, "but we were becoming something you couldn't comprehend." One by one, ascendants stepped forward. "We are not here for conquest. We are not here for peace. We are here for truth. And finally, we are here to break the silence." Back aboard the ascendant ships, orbiting the Council's heart world, energy fields began to form. Not weapons, not shields, archives. Visible from orbit, they opened like blooming mechanical flowers, releasing history. Every dark deal the Council ever made, every planet they sanctioned for cleansing, every lie, every silenced protest, every species they let die when it didn't benefit them. Truth, laid bare, broadcasted across the stars. Entire systems saw their leaders for what they truly were, and chaos followed. In the chamber, the Council's defense units activated, not to fight Marcus, but to defend him. The AI governing the chamber had calculated probability curves in real time, and it came to one conclusion. Fighting humanity now would lead to 98.7% galactic collapse within a decade. Cooperation was survival. "Then what do you want?" a trembling ambassador asked. "What is Earth's demand?" Marcus didn't smile. He simply breathed. "No more councils that choose profit over people. No more empires that confuse power with purpose. No more silencing." He turned slowly. "You've ruled through fear for too long. Let's see how well you do under justice." And with that, he left them. Just walked away. Leaving the chamber still, leaving the galaxy changed. Back aboard his ship, the others gathered around Marcus. "We didn't fire a shot," Leon whispered. "We didn't have to," said the blind one. "The truth was more lethal." Marcus stood at the window, watching stars flicker with new meanings. "It's not over," he said. "This was only the first wall." She nodded. "The real threat is still out there, isn't it?" He didn't reply, because deep in the black, beyond even council knowledge, something ancient had begun to stir. Something that hadn't moved in eons, and it had just felt Earth's pulse ripple through the void. The void wasn't empty. Beyond the mapped stars, past even the dark space that ancient probes dared not enter, something began to shift. Not with movement, but with awareness. It hadn't stirred in a million years. It hadn't needed to. It was not a civilization, not a species. It was a reminder, a failsafe from before memory. The ancients had buried it in silence. They never defeated it, only outpaced it. But now, Earth had whispered, the seeds had pulsed, the humans had awakened, and the thing in the dark had heard them. Marcus Reeve felt it before the sensors picked up anything. He stood alone in the meditation core of the lead ascendant ship, his mind adrift across a galaxy on the brink of revolution. But something had broken the flow, something vast and cold. Not evil, not intelligent, just hungry. He opened his eyes. "It's coming." The others appeared within seconds. Leon's face was tight. "How bad?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he brought up a projection of the galaxy, and then he showed them what lay outside of it. A shape, or rather an absence of one, was approaching. Not fast, not loud, but unstoppable. A black wound against the cosmic tapestry, dragging light toward it like a predator breathing in. The blind ascendant inhaled sharply. "The echo of the first collapse," Marcus nodded. "The thing the ancients feared enough to rewrite evolution, the reason they planted the seeds." Someone else whispered, "It's not a species. It's not a god." "No," Marcus said. "It's entropy, alive." The council watched from their hidden stations, paralyzed. The ascendants had overthrown the old order without firing a weapon. But this was something they had no plan for. Their empires had grown soft under the illusion of control, and now the void was coming to claim it all. The Golari ambassador sent a message to Marcus. "What do we do?" Marcus replied with 2 words. "Let us." They launched from Earth again, this time not as rebels, not as vengeance incarnate, but as defenders of life itself. As the ascendant fleet neared the galactic edge, reality began to fray. The stars flickered and twisted, time hiccuped, instruments failed, even thought slowed near the creature's event horizon. The others struggled to stay conscious. Marcus did not, because he was already inside it. The seed unlocked its final layer. Memory that wasn't his surged into Marcus. Visions of the first time this thing came, before stars had names, before gravity had rules, a black wave devouring what it touched until the ancients, who had no bodies, no homes, only energy and will, crafted the seeds. Not to destroy the thing, but to contain it. They scattered the seeds across planets with one shared trait: potential. Planets where pain forged strength, where evolution didn't climb a straight ladder, it clawed and bled for every step. Planets like Earth. The ancients gambled everything that one day one of these planets would produce a species capable of making the seeds bloom. And now, Earth had. Marcus stood before the void. Not physically, not spiritually, existentially. The creature saw him, not as prey, not as threat, but as strange. It paused, the closest thing it had to confusion, and Marcus spoke, not in words, but in defiance wrapped in love, grief, rage, and hope. Every emotion humans ever carried boiled into one radiant pulse. The seed inside him burned. And for the first time in its eternal hunger, the thing recoiled. Because Marcus showed it something that did not compute, A species that could survive itself. A species that could learn from pain. A species that could turn its weakness into weaponry. A species that had no business existing, and yet refused to stop. He didn't attack. He reflected. Every memory, every feeling, every song, scream, kiss, betrayal, breath of the human race. He pushed it outward. The void flinched, and then collapsed. Not destroyed, not killed, rewritten, it broke into fractals of data, shattered by what it could not devour. Marcus dropped to his knees, bleeding light. The seed dimmed, and the stars held still. Back on Earth, billions looked up at the sky. The ascendant ships returned, trailing energy like comets. No victory songs, no grand declarations, just silence and peace. Marcus stepped out first. His body still changed, but his eyes were human again. The woman who once guided him was there. "You did it," she whispered. "No," he said softly. "We did." Decades passed. Humanity never became conquerors. They became keepers, teachers, witnesses, protectors of the balance the Council failed to maintain. Earth was no longer dismissed. It became the center, a myth to some, a homeworld to others, a warning to many. And on the ruins of the Hydrax homeworld, carved into obsidian stone for all to see, read a single message in hundreds of tongues. Earth was silent because it was listening. You spoke. Now we speak louder.